J. Robert Oppenheimer was largely regarded as the father of the atomic bomb, but since all scientists are human, we need to ask the question, who was Oppenheimer? Robert Oppenheimer was born on April 22, 1904 into a family of first and second generation German immigrants. He had a younger brother Frank, and together they grew up in a privileged worldview. Their parents supported them in their pursuit for knowledge even at an early age. Robert excelled in school and even skipped several grades, but was often seen distant from his peers, and he had a hard time finding his own in a social setting. He graduated from high school in the spring of 1921, and one of his teachers offered to take him on a vacation to Los Alamos, New Mexico. His academic success and social life reclusion continued until he ventured off to Harvard. Initially, he started out as a chemistry major, but ended up switching to physics in his sophomore year. He would later say, "What I liked in chemistry was very close to physics." In his studies, he was very interested in the building blocks of nature and often bypassed fundamentals in order to focus his time on what he considered to be more interesting. After just 3 years, Oppenheimer graduated summa cum laude and sailed off to study in the Cavendish Laboratory in Cambridge. His arrival to Europe in the early 1920s coincided with a time of major breakthroughs in the world of physics. Niels Bohr and Werner Heisenberg were among the new group of physicists studying laws that applied to the behavior of phenomena on the scale of molecules and atoms. In other words, this was the age of the new and exciting field of quantum physics. While he loved the theory of his studies at Harvard, Oppenheimer struggled with the lab work at Cambridge. These difficulties ended up leading to a host of issues, both emotional and professional, that eventually caused him to start seeing a therapist in London. Oppenheimer left Cambridge to continue his studies in Göttingen, Germany, the undisputed center of theoretical physics. In this new setting, Robert thrived in his community of some of the greatest minds of the time. This was truly a time of dramatic breakthroughs in quantum theory, and there was a popular feeling that this was becoming a young man's science. I mean, the guy graduated from here with his PhD at the age of 22. It was here in Göttingen that Oppenheimer published his paper on the quantum theory of molecules with his mentor Max Born and gained some attention from the rest of the physics world. Oppenheimer accepted a teaching post at the University of California, Berkeley, to teach the so-called new physics. He actually had not one, but two professorship positions, one here at Berkeley and one down the road at Caltech. Before long, he became one of the primary avenues for people to enter the field of quantum mechanics. He inspired a whole new generation of mini Oppenheimers, known as the Nim Nim Boys, that started following his progress and imitating his quirks. While at Berkeley, Robert did a lot of different work with the Dirac equation, neutron stars, and black holes, as well as a host of other topics in theoretical physics. During these California days, Oppenheimer, or Oppie as he began to be known, made three friendships that proved to be very significant later in life. Ernest Lawrence and Robert Oppenheimer became close friends during their time at Berkeley. Lawrence was a key player in the invention of the cyclotron, a device that helped to realize how men could create new high-energy particles. Gene Tatlock and Oppenheimer had a very close relationship starting in 1936, but they saw each other rarely. Some say that Jean was the only woman that Robert ever truly loved, and he nearly married her on two separate occasions. Jean was very, political, and their relationship was often strained until they decided to end things in 1939. Håkon Chevalier and Oppenheimer were friends and professors at Berkeley. Chevalier becomes involved in one of the turning points in Oppie's life later on, so hold on to your seats. In 1940, Oppenheimer had an affair with Katherine Harrison, a married Berkeley student. He and Kitty ended up marrying in November, then by May 1941, they had their first child, Peter. In June of 1941, fears arose that the German scientific community might be more advanced in fission research. Lawrence requested that Oppenheimer be included in a secret meeting. At this meeting, an essential piece of the report hinged upon Oppenheimer's calculation for the amount of U-235 that would be required for an effective weapon. His attendance at this meeting was a springboard for future involvement in what would eventually become the nuclear arms race. It was believed that only a bomb could dislodge Hitler from Europe, so there was a fair amount of motivation to get there before the German scientists did. Another member of this group was a scientist named Edward Teller. While this discussion about building a fission bomb was underway, he was busy calculating the feasibility of using a fission weapon to ignite hydrogen and create a fusion explosion. His calculations predicted that this would produce an explosion the equivalent of 1 million tons of TNT. This prospect was both exciting and scary. These men were starting to realize the impact that their work would one day have. With the global stakes so high, President Roosevelt authorized a uranium committee to research applications with fission. General Colonel Leslie Richard Groves was appointed to look over the whole project. Part of his task in this role was to find someone to serve as the director of a new research laboratory in the works to realize the potential of nuclear weapons. Lawrence would have been a solid choice with his background in the project, but Groves opted to go with the more modest Oppenheimer for the job. It's important to note that at this time, concerns with the Communist Party and people with communist leaning were very high. Oppenheimer had a history of relationships with party supporters, and Groves knew this, but Oppie had made an effort to distance himself from these contacts in order to maintain the country's trust. By October 1942, Oppie was appointed director of the new research laboratory. Remember that vacation he took down in Los Alamos? Well, since then, it had become an annual thing to go and get away from the world. Because of this, it made for a natural choice when he was given the opportunity to select the site for the new lab. Having never been in a position like this before, Oppie greatly underestimated the scope of the task ahead of him. His estimates of a $300,000 budget eventually grew to $7.5 million before the construction was completed. Leading the charge at Los Alamos, Oppenheimer transformed into a decisive executive, a far cry from the hesitant and diffident professor and theoretical physicist he once was. At the height of the program, Oppenheimer found himself managing over 3,000 people, as well as taking on some of the more important theoretical and mechanical problems that came up. He brought in the best minds in physics to work on this unified problem of creating an atomic bomb. It's impressive to realize that the talent assembled here was the largest scientific team to work together on one task, ever. While the average age of the employees was only 29, 2 already had Nobel Prizes, and 11 would go on to win one later in life. As you can probably imagine, security at a facility like this was as tight as it could be. Oppenheimer was closely followed so as not to make any wrong moves or talk to the wrong people. Lieutenant Colonel Boris Pash, in particular, was all over Oppie to try to catch him passing info to the Soviets. Throughout all of this, Groves remained by Oppenheimer's side and defended his loyalty to the military and the government. There were discussions in late 1944 about the ethics behind the development of the atomic bomb, then known as the gadget, because the war was essentially won already. Oppenheimer argued that the war should not end without the world knowing about the new weapon. Otherwise, he believed, the next war would surely be fought with atomic bombs. Around the same time, doubts arose after Hitler committed suicide. No longer did the team have their initial justification for building the bomb. Leo Szilard, the man who urged the initiation of the program to build atomic bombs, was now frantically trying to warn against their use in fear of triggering an arms race with Russia. He started a petition to the president asking that Japan receive a demonstration warning so that they would have the chance to surrender before the weapons were actually used. Oppenheimer made efforts to slow the progress of this petition because he had been convinced that the invasion was inevitable and he believed that it would be necessary to use the weapons in order to prevent future wars. Many even questioned what sort of role scientists should have in what was then deemed a purely military issue. Oppenheimer was quoted saying, "It is clear that we, as scientific men, have no proprietary rights, no claim to special competence in solving the political, social, and military problems which are presented by the advent of the atomic power." Meanwhile, the team at Los Alamos had finally reached a point where they were confident that a nuclear weapon could be built and used. Oppie insisted that the bomb be tested first, even though he met resistance from military leaders and those that thought a test run would be a waste of precious uranium resources. In the end, Oppie was able to argue his case for testing and quickly staked out an area in New Mexico that was 18 by 24 miles in size. The test, codenamed Trinity, went off without a hitch. As the team witnessed the incredible power of their creation, they knew that the world would never be the same. Oppenheimer himself gave the most haunting reaction in an interview several years later.
Few people laughed. Few people cried. Most people were silent. I remembered the line from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." I suppose we all thought that one way or another.
Everyone who had come out to Los Alamos had come for a good reason. Everyone had worked hard to accomplish a difficult task, but now that test was successful. The gadget had become a weapon in the hands of the military. What are some discoveries today that might have the potential to have a lasting impact on mankind? How much of a role does society and government have in the practice of science? How much should it have? When you are ready, please click below or this annotation to move on to the next video.